Monday mornings at Riverside Memorial Hospital were always hectic, but this one pushed chaos to a new limit. Phones rang without mercy, intercom codes echoed overhead, and the squeak of gurney wheels cut through the hallway's sterile glow. Doctors scribbled signatures mid-stride, nurses traded urgent instructions, and every heartbeat in that building pulsed with the rhythm of emergency care. No one inside could have guessed that in just a few heartbeats the entire hospital would freeze as if time had stopped. Amid the buzz and alarms, an unfamiliar sound broke through, the sharp click of claws tapping on polished tile. The automatic glass doors parted with a soft hiss, revealing a sight no soul in Riverside Memorial would ever forget. A large German shepherd, fur matted with dried blood, marching into the lobby. On his sturdy back lay a small girl, no older than 7 or 8, limp and motionless. Her tiny hands dangled lifelessly, her tangled hair streaked with mud and dried leaves. A thin line of blood trickled from her neck, dripping onto the spotless white floor tile. At once, a receptionist's pen clattered to the desk. A doctor, mid-question, stammered into silence. For a split second, no one breathed. All eyes locked on the dog and the fragile cargo on his back. Step by step, the shepherd advanced with unshakable purpose. His deep brown eyes did not waver, locked straight ahead with a desperate plea that needed no words. He made no sound, no threat. He simply moved forward, driven by something stronger than instinct alone. A young nurse gasped, voice trembling in the hush. "Oh my God, he's carrying a child." No one moved fast enough to respond. It was as if the hum of machines, the echo of footsteps, the constant chorus of beeping monitors all vanished at once. Only the dog's footsteps clicked across the lobby, steady and deliberate. In that frozen moment, no one knew where he had come from, whose loyal companion he was, or what nightmare he had escaped, but everyone knew one undeniable truth. Something terrible had happened, and this dog had come begging for help on behalf of the tiny, broken life draped across his back. The suffocating silence that gripped the emergency lobby shattered as quickly as it had fallen, replaced by the squeal of gurney wheels and a nurse's urgent shout. "Get Dr. Harper here now. Emergency gurney, move." But no one dared to approach the dog. A security guard kept his hand hovering over his radio, torn between calling for backup or waiting for orders. Some staff backed away, uneasy under the shepherd's piercing brown gaze that tracked every twitch and whisper. Among the frozen crowd, only Emma, a young nurse with neatly tied brown hair and steady eyes, stepped forward. She moved slowly, palms open at chest height, her voice soft and steady like a lullaby. "Hey buddy, it's okay. I won't hurt anyone. I just want to help her, okay?" Max, the name Emma would soon give him, shifted his weight, a low growl rumbling deep in his throat, his ears pinned back, muscles taut, positioning himself squarely between the child and everyone else. Emma lowered herself to her knees, palms close to the polished floor, making herself as unthreatening as possible. Behind her, Dr. Leon Harper skidded to a stop, eyes widening at the impossible scene. What in God's name is happening here? Emma didn't dare turn to answer, her entire focus locked on the shepherd's unwavering stare. His chest heaved, each breath labored and shaky with exhaustion. Blood still dripped from the little girl's wounds, soaking into his fur. "Easy now. You did so well. Now let me help her, okay? You've done enough, brave boy." Her whisper was so gentle that even those watching forgot to breathe. Inch by inch, Emma crept closer. Max let out a deep, warning rumble, but he didn't snap. His eyes flicked from her outstretched hands to her face, searching, questioning. Carefully, Emma reached the tiny arm that hung limply over his back. Max stood perfectly still, a faint whimper vibrating in his chest. A single tear slipped down Emma's cheek. She touched the girl's shoulder, feeling for a pulse, weak and slow. "We need to transfer her to the gurney, now." Emma's voice was low but firm. Max shifted his paws, stepping back just enough to clear the way. Staff rushed in with the gurney, careful not to startle him. Emma lifted the girl off his back, light as a feather, her hands now stained with the child's blood. she whispered through a tight throat. "Good boy, you did so good. I promise I'll take care of her now." Max padded alongside her, his watchful eyes never leaving the girl as Emma laid her gently on the gurney. Nurses fitted an oxygen mask to her pale lips. IV tubes sprouted from her tiny arm. Dr. Harper caught the security guard's eye and nodded firmly. "Don't remove him. Let him stay. He deserves to be right here." And so, beneath the harsh scent of antiseptic and the harsh fluorescent lights, a German shepherd the size of a small bear walked beside an emergency gurney, eyes locked on the fragile life he'd carried through the woods, etching an image no one at Riverside Memorial would ever forget. The moment the gurney rolled past the swinging ER doors, the room turned into a tense battlefield. Overhead surgical lamps flicked on, flooding the tiny bed with harsh white light. Nurses snapped on gloves and masks, moving around the child with precise, urgent steps. Dr. Leon Harper, the head of emergency medicine, stood at the head of the bed, his eyes darting between flickering numbers on the monitor. His voice cut through the chaos like a scalpel. "Emma, check her pulse again. Nancy, get an IV line in. Oxygen at full flow. I need that blood pressure reading now." Emma grasped the little girl's icy wrist, her fingers trembling only slightly. She whispered under her breath, not sure if it was for the child or herself. "Stay with us, sweetheart. You're not alone anymore." Max held his ground a few steps from the bed, a living statue blocked by the ring of nurses and equipment. His ears twitched at every movement, his eyes glued to the small figure on the bed. Whenever someone stepped in his line of sight, he crept closer, whining low in his throat. Nancy, a senior nurse with graying hair, threw Emma a nervous glance as she pushed a syringe. "Is he safe, Emma?" Emma didn't look up from the IV tube she was priming. "He's fine. Don't push him away. He's not leaving her." The monitor's alarm erupted into a shrill, sustained beep. Dr. Harper's jaw tightened. Heart rate's crashing. Get the adrenaline ready. Emma, hold her arms steady. Don't let her seize. In the flurry of barked orders and rattling trays, Max suddenly lifted his head and let out a deep, mournful howl that sliced through the beeps and whispers. The sound made a few staff flinch, but no one dared to force him out. Dr. Harper pressed the syringe, fingers steady, then placed a hand on the child's chest, pushing in gentle compressions. He had fought to save countless lives in his career, but never had he battled death beside a dog who had already carried his patient through darkness. "Heartbeat's climbing again," Emma cried, eyes fixed on the monitor as the erratic line steadied. A collective sigh rose in the room. Max lowered himself slowly to the cold tile floor, shoulders sagging as if drained of every last ounce of strength. But his eyes never left the girl. Outside the ER door, a small crowd had gathered. Security guards, interns, passing doctors. One whispered under his breath, "I've never seen a dog like that. He doesn't need a command. He just needs to be near her." As the adrenaline rush faded, Dr. Harper tugged his mask below his chin and looked at Emma, voice softer but still edged with urgency. "We need to know who she is and where this dog came from." Emma nodded, glancing at Max. "He knows. He brought her all the way here. He's not letting go." The monitor beeped in a steady rhythm, a fragile heartbeat fighting its way back from the edge. Beneath the glare of antiseptic lights, Max lay stretched out beneath the narrow hospital bed, eyes tired but vigilant. And in that quiet moment, everyone watching understood. This dog is so brave. For hours after the fight to save her life, Max did not budge from his post beneath the little girl's hospital bed. He lay stretched across the cold ICU floor, chest pressed low, brown eyes locked on the faint rise and fall of her ribs under the tangle of wires and the soft hiss of the oxygen mask. Nurses passing by paused to whisper in awe. Some knelt to run a gentle hand down his fur. Max barely flicked his gaze at them before pressing his chin back to the tile, unwavering and silent. To him, the whole world now shrank to the fragile heartbeat pulsing above his head. Outside the ICU, in the security office down the hall, Dr. Harper and a handful of staff huddled around a glowing monitor, They replayed the security footage in slow motion. Frame by frame, the German Shepherd emerged from the dense tree line behind the parking lot, back hunched under the limp weight of the child, paws picking careful steps through muddy grass. He slipped through a sagging fence, circled a few parked cars, then headed straight for the automatic doors as if guided by something deeper than instinct. A security guard leaned closer to the screen, voice barely above a whisper. He really knew where to go, didn't he? An IT tech froze the video on a clear shot of Max's eyes under the infrared glow. Tired, fur matted with grime, but locked on a single mission: deliver her to help, no matter what. Emma, freshly changed into a clean scrub top, joined Dr. Harper at the console, eyes glassy but calm. She spoke softly, clutching a file to her chest. He crossed that forest alone, all night, just to bring her to us. Dr. Harper nodded, eyes never leaving the looping footage. 20 years in this ER and I've never seen anything like it. No tag, no chip, just an old leather strap hanging by a thread. Yet he found his way here. The nurse handed Emma a steaming cup of coffee. She accepted it gratefully, sipped once, then murmured, as if to herself, "Max knew she needed someone, and he trusted us to save her." Back in the ICU, Max lay coiled so close to the bed that his ear brushed the crisp white sheets. The monitor beeped a steady rhythm, each blip a promise that life still clung tight. Staff tiptoed past the glass door, lowering their voices, unwilling to disturb the silent sentinel at her side. Beyond that quiet bubble, rumors flew through the corridors. A dog carried a child from the woods. A shepherd who found the hospital by himself. Doctors gathered in hushed corners, debating how to uncover her name, her family, and the dark truth of what she had escaped in that forest. But for Max, none of that mattered now. He had delivered her to safety, and until her eyes opened again, he would not leave her side, not for a single heartbeat. Word of the German Shepherd who carried a wounded girl through the woods to the hospital spread quickly through town. By late afternoon, local police, forest rangers, and a rescue team with a trained canine unit gathered outside Riverside Memorial, forming an urgent search party. Max, now calmer after Emma had given him water and wiped some dirt from his fur, sat obediently by her side, tail flicking whenever her hand stroked his head. But every time an officer gestured toward the shadowy tree line, Max tensed, eyes locked on the forest, as if begging, "Go, I'll show you the way." A senior forest ranger spoke quietly to Dr. Harper. "We'll retrace the trail he came through. According to the footage, he emerged from the northern woods. If the girl was hurt there, there's a chance we'll find evidence." Emma knelt down, scratching Max gently behind the ear. "Max, you'll take them back, won't you? Good boy. Show them." Max leaned forward, a low growl rumbling deep in his chest. His paws scraped at the pavement in barely contained urgency. An officer clipped a makeshift leash to his worn collar, but the second it pulled tight, Max lunged, nearly dragging the man forward, toward the forest's edge, eyes sharp with purpose. The team assembled fast, 3 forest rangers in front, 2 local officers behind, and a trained canine trotting alongside. But only Max knew the way. Flashlight beams sliced through moss-covered trunks, the steady chorus of crickets filling the encroaching dusk. They followed a half-head game trail marked by faint boot prints pressed deep into damp mud. Max stayed ahead, nose to the ground, stopping now and then to sniff, then trotting forward with quiet certainty. One ranger whispered to his partner, "Never seen a dog lead a trail like this. He's better than our K9S tonight." The earthy musk of the forest clung to every coat and boot. One officer stumbled on a twisted root, nearly falling. Max paused to glance back, then continued without missing a beat. Nearly an hour into the shadowy maze of trees, Max halted abruptly beneath a heavy canopy. Ears perked, a growl vibrating in his chest. Flashlight swung toward the direction his nose pointed. Hidden beneath thick brush sat a crude makeshift camp. A few branches lashed together into a lean-to, a torn tarp overhead, and a ring of half-burnt logs with damp ash. A ranger lifted the tarp gently. Beneath it lay a grimy blanket, some empty canned food, and a battered cell phone snapped in two, its battery lying inches away. One of the officers crouched low, picking up a small mud-caked shoe, a perfect match to the one still on the girl's foot. He muttered under his breath, "This is where they kept her." She was here. Max let out a long, low growl, eyes locked on the darkness beyond the camp as if warning that danger might still be close. The lead ranger raised a hand, signaling the team to fan out. They found an empty whiskey bottle, torn cigarette packs, and dark stains on a rotting log. Undeniable traces of something violent and wrong. Night began its slow crawl through the canopy. An officer spoke urgently into his radio. "We've found the campsite, requesting additional units. The suspect may still be nearby." Amid the shifting beams of flashlight and the rustle of boots through dead leaves, Max stood tall, shoulders trembling with fatigue, yet eyes bright and watchful. In the wavering light, his deep brown gaze told everyone what words could not. Without him, no one would have found this place, and no one would ever know how that child survived long enough to be carried home. And while the forest yielded its secrets, a different battle was unfolding back at Riverside Memorial. While Max led the forest rangers and police deeper into the night woods to uncover the place where she had been held inside Riverside Memorial's ICU, Emma stayed faithfully at the little girl's side. The recovery room hummed with the steady beep of monitors and the soft hiss of oxygen flowing through a nasal tube taped at the corner of her pale mouth. Emma's fingers wrapped around the tiny, lifeless hand, her own eyes shadowed by exhaustion, yet unblinking in their vigil. Dr. Harper stepped in, a folder of lab results in his grip. He laid the papers down with a calm authority in his voice. "Her numbers are stronger. If her heart holds steady, she'll breathe on her own soon. Now, it's up to her to keep fighting." Emma pressed her lips together, squeezing the small hand tighter. "She will. She's not alone in this fight." Through the ICU's glass wall, she caught glimpses of security staff whispering updates. Fragments of the search team's reports trickled in. They had found the campsite. They were gathering evidence, all because Max was leading them through the darkness. Silently, Emma prayed, "Come back safe, Max. And you, little warrior, come back to me too." The tension that weighed on the room cracked when the girl's eyelids twitched. At first, just the faintest flicker, then a more definite flutter as her lashes quivered. Emma stopped breathing, leaning closer, voice trembling. "Sweetheart, open those eyes for me, please." A thin sigh slipped from the child's lips. Her lids parted just enough for her foggy eyes to dart, searching for something familiar. Emma bit her lip to stop herself from crying out, then whispered urgently, "You're at the hospital. You're safe now." The girl's dry lips moved, a tear welling at the corner of her eye. Her whisper barely crossed the short space between them, yet Emma caught every syllable. "Max, where?" Emma clutched her hand tighter, her voice cracking with gentle promise. "Max is out there, helping the police catch the bad man. He'll come back to you soon, I swear." From the hallway outside, the unmistakable staccato of claws on polished tile echoed, closer and closer. A nurse gasped, "Oh my God, he's back." The ICU door swung open. Max, fur streaked with fresh mud, chest heaving, barreled straight through the startled staff. He lunged forward, bracing his big paws on the edge of the bed, his deep brown eyes locked onto hers, blind to every human voice around him. Emma let out a choked sob, fingers weaving through his fur. "Good boy, Max. You came back to her." Max didn't bark. He didn't growl. He pushed his nose into the girl's fragile hand, breathing in her warmth as if to promise, "My job's done out there. Now I'm here where I belong." The girl's eyelids fluttered shut again, a tear slipping down her ashen cheek. Her tiny fingers curled into his neck fur, refusing to let go. Dr. Harper and the nurses stood frozen, not one daring to interrupt. He murmured hoarsely, voice thick with awe, "Let him stay. He belongs right here." Amid the steady hiss of oxygen and the cold shine of ICU lights, a child's weary eyes and a dog's unwavering gaze told the only truth that mattered. This shepherd could guide grown men through a forest and find a hidden crime, but in the end, the only place he ever truly wanted to be was here, at her side. Inside the ICU, Max curled up right beside the hospital bed, his head resting on the mattress edge, his calm breathing blending with the steady beep of the monitor. On the other side, Emma sat, holding the child's fragile hand, or rather, holding on to the miracle that Max had carried back to life. Dr. Harper stepped forward, motioning for the nurses to give them space. He cleared his throat, his voice raspy but gentle. "We need to know, sweetheart, what's your name? Can you tell Miss Emma and me what to call you?" The big, tired eyes stared at the ceiling for a long moment. Then she turned her gaze to Emma, her whisper barely a thread of sound. "I don't have a name." Emma froze, fighting the tight knot in her chest. "That's okay. Who took care of you? Where are your parents?" A single tear traced down from the corner of her eye, sliding into her hair. "I don't have parents. I lived with Uncle." Max gave a soft whimper, as if protesting that such a man didn't deserve to be called Uncle. Emma squeezed the tiny hand gently. "It's okay now, you're safe. But what would you like us to call you?" The child fell silent for a few seconds, her eyes drifting to Max lying beside her, half asleep but fully aware. A faint, fragile smile tugged at her cracked lips. "I gave myself a name, Anna." Emma's breath caught in her throat. She nodded quickly, her fingers brushing damp hair from the girl's forehead. "Anna? That's a beautiful name. You're the bravest Anna I've ever met." Max stirred, opening his eyes to glance at Emma before nudging his nose gently into Anna's small palm. Anna's smile grew just a little wider, her voice hoarse but proud. "Max, always with Anna. Max saved Anna." As the girl's condition gradually stabilized, Dr. Harper called in a young trauma counselor named Miss Rachel to sit by the ICU bed and gently coax her story out. Max lay sprawled at the foot of the bed, occasionally lifting his big head to rest it on the crisp sheets. A silent promise. "I'm right here. Don't be afraid." Mrs. Rachel leaned in, her tone soft as a morning breeze. "Sweetheart, my name is Rachel. Do you remember what happened? Take your time. I'm here. Max is here too." The girl blinked slowly, swallowing against the dryness in her throat. Her tiny fingers burrowed deeper into the thick fur at Max's neck, clinging as if letting go might let the nightmare drag her back. Her voice was faint, halting, but heartbreakingly clear. "Uncle, he said he was Mom's friend, took me out. At first, he was nice. I believed him." Tears welled in the corners of her eyes. Ms. Rachel dabbed them away carefully, never interrupting. The child took a shallow breath, bony shoulders quivering under the blanket. Then, he camped. In the woods, he yelled, "Max!" barked, tried to protect me. He hit Max. He hit me. I was scared. I ran. I fell. Max didn't leave. Max stayed. Each word carved the horror deeper into the room's sterile hush. Emma, standing by the monitor, turned her head away, blinking back tears that threatened to spill. Miss Rachel squeezed the girl's hand gently, her own voice cracking. "You were so brave. And Max, too. Max brought you home." The child didn't speak again. She only buried her face into Max's warm fur. Max lay still, breathing slow and steady, a living shield between her and the monsters still lurking in her memories. Dr. Harper watched through the glass panel at the door, clutching the medical file tight against his chest. Bruises, cracked ribs, signs of dehydration. Every line of evidence matched her trembling confession. He murmured to Emma, voice low with respect, "If he hadn't carried her here in time, we would have lost her." Emma stroked Max's ear with a tenderness usually reserved for family. He didn't just find the way, he saved her soul. Now, the story was clear. This girl wasn't merely a victim, she was living proof of a promise kept. Max, the loyal shepherd, had braved the shadows, outsmarted the forest, and guarded her life with every heartbeat until she was safe in a bed, whispering his name. While the girl slept soundly with Max curled up beside her, the police investigation unit and forest rangers kept scouring the area around the abandoned campsite. Every footprint, discarded wrapper, and burnt cigarette stub was bagged and tagged for evidence. A young officer leaned in to speak to the head ranger, voice tight with urgency. Based on her description, he can't have gone far. He never expected the dog to carry her away. The team leader nodded, sweeping his flashlight toward the narrow trail that cut back toward the highway. If he's a drifter, he'll stick close to bus stops or roadside shelters. Within minutes, the alert went out to every local precinct. Patrol cars fanned out, staking out bus stations, old gas stations, and shabby motels along the highway. An identification sketch was rushed to print. A thin man, stringy hair, ragged jacket, always carrying a battered old backpack. Less than 2 hours later, at a run-down bus depot 20 miles from the hospital, a lone patrol officer spotted a man hunched on a plastic bench, clinging to a faded bag. When asked for ID, the man stammered, eyes darting for an escape route. Inside the bag, the officer found stale bread, a filthy blanket, and most damning of all, the little girl's old sweater. With no more excuses to hide behind, the suspect was handcuffed on the spot. Word of the arrest spread quickly back to Riverside Memorial. Dr. Harper stood by the ICU window, watching Max nestled close against the sleeping girl's side, whispering as if the dog might understand. "He's caught now, Max. You kept your promise to her." Emma, standing beside him, squeezed his arm, her eyes wet, but her voice steady. "But without Max, we wouldn't have had a chance to save her. He's the reason justice found her." Everyone in the hospital that day understood one simple truth. Justice could come through badges and handcuffs. But sometimes, survival itself began with the silent, stubborn loyalty of a stray dog who refused to let go. News of the kidnapper's arrest quickly made it onto the local evening broadcasts. But for everyone inside Riverside Memorial, the real victory wasn't in headlines, it was in the quiet image of Max, the loyal German shepherd, guarding the sleep of a homeless child who had never known safety before him. A few days later, a child services representative arrived at the hospital, paperwork in hand to transfer the girl to an emergency care shelter. When she overheard, the girl, her voice still hoarse, clutched Max's fur tight and whispered in a trembling plea, "I won't go if Max can't come with me." The social worker hesitated. Rules were clear, no animals allowed in standard foster shelters. But Emma, backed by Dr. Harper, stood firm, filing an urgent petition. "If you separate them, everything she fought through will unravel. He's not just a dog, he's her only family." Faced with the entire hospital's quiet resolve, child services relented. Max would go too. Nurses pooled tips to buy a sturdy new leash, a clean food bowl, and a soft blanket, so Max would have a bed near hers. On transfer day, the hospital held a small, heartfelt send-off. Doctors, nurses, and even security guards clapped as Emma knelt to tie a bright blue ribbon around Max's neck, a hero's medal in its own simple way. Max didn't understand the cameras, the applause, or the speeches. All he knew was that the little girl's hand clutched his fur, and she was safe. As the girl and Max were helped into the waiting car, Dr. Harper stood behind the glass doors, murmuring a quiet promise that only Max could hear. "Keep her safe, just like you always have, Max. You're our hero, and you always will be." Max trotted at her side, tail wagging, eyes locked on his little girl. And as everyone watched them go, they knew one thing for certain. This journey was far from over. For the girl and Max, this was only the beginning of a family, of hope, and of a love that asked for nothing in return. And for everyone who witnessed it, a quiet reminder lingered. Sometimes the bravest guardian wears fur and walks on 4 loyal paws.